On today's episode, we're talking about a few critical pieces that the best leaders, teams, and cultures do to both plan and execute. Stay tuned to learn more. Welcome back to the Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. Wherever you are and however you're coming to the podcast today, welcome in. So glad you are here. So glad this continues to add value to your life and your work. We're in season 9, which means we've got 280 plus episodes. So if you're new to the podcast, Google my name, Jason Barger, whatever subject you're looking for as it relates to leadership, culture, mindset, trust, communication, accountability, whatever it is that you're looking for, and chances are you're going to come up with an episode that hopefully speaks to you. If you're one of the OGs that have been with us from the very beginning, so glad you are back, and so glad this continues to add value to your life and your work. That's obviously the point of this. My hope and my commitment to the listeners every time I record one of these is I want the content that we're sharing, I want it to breathe some good oxygen into you, give you some things to think about so that you can continue to think about that temperature that you're hoping to set in your life and in your work. And the more times we take to step back and to think about these things, the more intentional we are to set that temperature that we desire. So glad you are here. Before we dive into today's episode, if you'll do me the quick favor, if you haven't subscribed, please do that because that's important. But also to rate the podcast, 5 stars, of course. But on whatever platform you're on, that's super helpful. I keep being reminded to tell people that. So thank you to anybody that does that. If you can leave an authentic review in your own words, why are these messages important in the world that we're in today? That is really helpful to help people find the podcast as well. And then lastly, of course, every time you share the podcast, whether that's on social media, whether that's just with your friends, your colleagues, your team at work, of saying, hey, let's listen to this episode and let's talk about it. Those are ways in which these messages continue to spread and get amplified around the world. And I'm grateful for everybody that takes the time to do that. So thank you. Some people are really good at the plan. Some teams are really good at planning. Some organizations are outstanding at coming up with the plan. Some are not good at coming up with the plan, but they're not good at that proactive planning. They're not good at that proactive visioning and strategy for their future. Then there are some people that are really good at executing the plan. Some teams are really good at implementing a plan. Some organizations excel at executing a game plan. Some are good at coming up with the plan, but awful at the execution. And some are great at the execution, but not great with coming up with the plan, and vice versa. It turns out one of the most common missteps in leadership and culture is only focusing on one of the two, either on the planning or the execution. And one of the traits, of course, of the best leaders and cultures is the ability to both plan for their future and execute on the plan. So, on today's episode, we're talking about a few critical pieces that the best leaders, teams, and cultures do to both plan and execute. Stay tuned to learn more. But before we dive deeper, let's pause, take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Many teams and organizations right now are realizing that they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, where everyone in the room can experience the energy of congregating together and find clarity for the road ahead. And they also need to continue to find ways to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually, with those who are working remotely or at a distance. So, if you are in the process of planning your next team meeting, company all-hands event, conference or culture summit and are looking for support with a powerful keynote speech, facilitated team conversations that are the currency for change, or deeper development on leadership mindset and an intentional strategy for the culture you're trying to create, I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon. I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon. Planning and execution are, of course, key to any successful team, culture, or entity of any kind. It's not surprising to any of us that the world-class teams and organizations are masters at both their planning and their execution. They give great focus and energy to both of them. It also might not be a shocker to remind you that none of them are perfect at either. In fact, what makes them masterful is often their ability to recalibrate their thermostat as a team and make adjustments to their planning and their execution along the way. The best leaders, the best teams, the best organizations, they know that their planning and execution is not one linear line. We're still in the midst of the NBA playoffs for you basketball fans out there. Again, many listeners of this podcast know that basketball is near and dear to my heart. And so we're not too far removed from the Cleveland Cavaliers, a beloved Ohio team. And this year, they were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, that they were upset in the second round by the Indiana Pacers. Believe it or not, this is a great illustration that both planning and execution are critical and don't always get both of them right all of the time. None of us do. We don't get both of those right all the time. The Cleveland Cavaliers, just for context, even if you're not a basketball person out there, hang with this for a second. The Cleveland Cavaliers, by most estimations, had planned brilliantly for this year. They had made wise picks over the years in different drafts of players that they needed. They had skilled trades that they put into place to trade for players, to acquire talent that they needed. And then the meshing of the skill sets to how they wanted to play the game. Their plan and their planning, by all estimations, was really pretty darn good. And their plan for how they wanted to execute was both planned and executed brilliantly during the regular season. They won 64 regular season games, which led the entire Eastern Conference and was second best in the whole league. And to achieve that level of success, you can't just have a plan, but it means you've executed well too. There are too many amazingly talented players in the NBA, or if you're thinking about this again, in other competitive business environments to whatever it is that the industry you're in. There are too many amazingly talented players and other people around there to think that you're going to just luck your way into that. It comes from planning and execution. And so during the regular season, the Cavs put that plan and they executed it brilliantly. A couple of stats that would back that up. The Cavaliers during the regular season they shot nearly 40% from three-point range and averaged making about 15 three-pointers a game. The plan was being executed masterfully, and the results were following. However, in the second round series and their 4 losses to the Indiana Pacers, the plan and the blueprint was still there, and although a little banged up with injuries, I'm saying that not as an excuse, but just reality, the Cavaliers, the plan was still there and the blueprint was still there, but their execution was not the same. In the series against the Pacers, their three-point percentage dropped from nearly 40% in the regular season to just 29% in the playoffs. Their regular season average of 15 made three-pointers a game dropped to only 11 against the Indiana Pacers. That's a drop of 12 points per game from their average. The Indiana Pacers went on to win the series by an average of 9 points per game. The difference between that planning and the execution. The plan was there for the Cavaliers, but the execution was not. And in fact, the Pacers out-executed the Cavs. The Cavaliers had the plan, but in the playoffs, they didn't execute at the same rate that they did in the regular season, and the Pacers actually executed at a higher rate than they did during the regular season. Now, the reality for this year's NBA playoffs is that, unfortunately, the end of the story for that, for this year, that's the end of the story for the Cleveland Cavaliers for this year. But the reality is that their next challenge will be to reflect on the plan and to make the necessary adjustments to execute next. The hard truth is that sometimes we just don't execute like we always did or always should. So in those 4 games, they did not execute like they did for 64 games prior. But the story can be changed in the future. So, what are some of the best practices that the best teams do to both plan and execute? One is they take time to plan, which may seem obvious, but they take time to plan. They vision for where they are trying to go and what it'll take to get there. And in this offseason for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but as you think about this, hopefully you're not just thinking about the Cavs, but you're thinking about this as it relates to your team, your organization, your business, your life, your work, whatever, however you're thinking about this today. But they take time to then vision, to step back and say, where is it we're trying to go next? And they start to examine, was this just a 4-game, anomaly? Or was this, showing us of what execution might look like into the future? Are there adjustments to be made? But they take the time to plan and say, what is it that we need next? And we know that for our own life and our own work, the best take the time to plan and begin to map out where is it they're trying to go. And the second thing that they do is they get clear on the roles and goals on the team. Every teammate has clarity on their role within the framework of the game plan. And so they will, not only do we have a plan for where we're trying to go in the future, but what are the roles that are going to be needed? And is it clear within the framework of how we're going to play in this game plan, of who's going to do what and what those goals are for each individual contributor. The third thing that the best practices of the best teams that plan and execute do is they make adjustments. Market conditions change, or something calls for the path to be altered. Or, again, as the Cavaliers, as they started to see that they're missing so many shots, they started to adjust and try to figure out, well, can somebody else step up? And so they start to new players get an opportunity. And so in your team, in your organizations, what are those adjustments? What are those market conditions where maybe the plan or the execution needs to be altered in some way? The other best practice that these best that plan and execute do is that they practice it. So they not only take the time to plan, they not only get clear on the roles and goals of the team and the framework for how they're going to play, they're not only open to making adjustments along the way, but they practice the craft. Steph Curry, the best shooter in the history of basketball, still spends hours in preparation on his shot prior to every single game. He's out there hours ahead of time, still working on his craft. His execution isn't by accident, and it also isn't perfect. He's the best shooter in the history of the world, and yet he's not perfect. It requires him continuing to practice to hone the craft, because even he has nights where he doesn't execute to the brilliance of the plan that he's put into place. And then the last best practice that I'll talk about today for the teams that both plan and execute more effectively is they bring their eyes back to the plan and the execution. A team is about getting all involved to be focused on the plan and committed to the culture of how they're going to execute together. That's just what the best teams do. Is it's not just about individual performance. It's about how do we get everyone in the team looking in the same direction, understanding the plan, and then understanding the role they play and how they execute. And oftentimes the masterful teams and organizations are masters about bringing people's focus and attention, where they look is where they go, back to let's put the focus on the team and what we're trying to accomplish together and how we all fit into that, not the other way around. So, as we know, culture shaping matters more than ever right now within organizations. So, as always, let me leave you with a couple of questions to ponder for today's episode. What is the plan within your team or organization for the road ahead? Are the roles and goals for each team member clear? What's your plan to practice so you're ready to execute at your best when it's needed? I hope today's episode got you thinking in some good ways, and I hope those questions help you reflect and stimulate progress in your life and your work. Cheers to you. Cheers to all of us on the path ahead. If you have any thoughts, if you have any feedback, if you have any ideas about this content or anything you'd like to see in the future, or if we can just be supportive to you or you want to talk about support and partnership to help develop the people, the culture, the clarity of mission, vision, values, whatever that is throughout your organization, then please, you can reach out to us. You can email us, info@jasonvbarger.com. info@jasonvbarger.com. You can track us down through the jasonvbarger.com website. There's an opportunity to fill out a little form and contact us that way, or you can certainly drop us a note on social media @jasonvbarger on whatever platform you're on. So if we can be helpful to you, please reach out, and we'd love to at least have a conversation to see if there's something that can be helpful to you in developing your people and your culture in the way that you need. So thanks to everybody for listening. Again, I hope this added value to your life, to your work, and helping you think about the temperature you're trying to set. Again, don't forget to subscribe, to rate the podcast, to review the podcast in your authentic words, and to share it with the people in your life and your work. And the last thing I'll just remind us of is to step back, remember, be a thermostat, and breathe good oxygen. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.